imagine just for a second that your life is perfect. And I don't mean I found a $20 bill in my jeans perfect. I mean like engineered perfect.
Yeah.
The sun hits your pillow at the exact right angle every single morning. Your neighbors aren't just polite, they're delighted to see you every single day.
It sounds like the American dream on steroids.
It does, but then imagine there's a catch, a massive one. You are the only real person there.
Oh, wow.
Every smile, every handshake, every single conversation, it's all a script.
That is a terrifying premise. Everyone you love, your spouse, your best friend, the guy selling you a newspaper, they're all just paid actors. The city you live in isn't a city, it's a massive studio.
Visible from space.
Right, and since the moment you were born, your entire life has been the world's most popular reality TV show.
We are talking, of course, about the 1998 classic, The Truman Show. But here's the thing, and this is exactly why we're diving into this stack of research today. We aren't here to do a movie review.
Not at all.
We've pulled together a collection of articles, philosophical essays, and film analyses that all argue this film is so much more than just a satire on media.
Absolutely. The sources we're looking at today position The Truman Show as a profound philosophical experiment. It's like a Trojan horse.
A Trojan horse, I love that.
Yeah, it looks like a Jim Carrey comedy on the outside, but inside, it's holding a mirror up to the human condition. It forces us to wrestle with the big questions. What is reality? Who's actually in control of our lives? And, what does it even mean to be free?
It disarms you with a laugh and then, bam, hits you with an existential crisis. So to guide us through this, we've structured this deep dive around 4 major philosophical pillars that the source material keeps pointing to. We're going to look at reality through the lens of René Descartes, control through Michel Foucault, identity through John Locke, and finally, the terrifying weight of freedom with Jean-Paul Sartre.
It's a heavy lineup for a movie about an insurance salesman in a bubbly town called Sea Haven.
It is, but the sources make it really accessible. So let's start where the movie starts. Or I should say where the movie starts to crack. Truman Burbank is living this idyllic life. But the analysts point out that the story really begins when things start to glitch.
Right. The glitch in the matrix. In the film, it's quite literal. A studio light just falls out of the sky and smashes onto the street right in front of him.
Yeah.
But the source material focuses less on the physical object and more on what it triggers inside Truman. It's the beginning of a philosophical awakening.
It's that nagging suspicion, right? That feeling that the world is revolving around you a little too perfectly. Like, have you ever had that feeling where a coincidence is just too convenient?
Exactly. And the sources draw a direct line here to René Descartes, the 17th century French philosopher. Most people know him for I think, therefore I am.
Right.
But to get to that conclusion, Descartes had to go through a process called methodological skepticism, or simply Cartesian doubt.
Methodological skepticism. That sounds intense. Let's unpack that. What was Descartes actually trying to do?
Well, he was trying to find a truth that couldn't possibly be doubted. So he sat by his fire and asked a really radical question. How do I know my senses aren't lying to me? How do I know that everything I see, this fire, this room, my own hands, isn't just a deceptive simulation created by some kind of evil demon to trick me?
Which is wild because he was writing this in the 1600s, long before simulation theory or the Matrix.
Precisely. And in Truman's case, this isn't a hypothetical evil demon, it's a television producer.
Right.
Truman is literally living Descartes' nightmare. He looks at his wife, Meryl, and starts to wonder, is she really loving me? Or is she just reciting lines? He looks at the traffic and thinks, is that a real car? Or is it a prop on a loop?
It shifts his whole perspective. The source emphasizes that this suspicion is the first step of philosophy. It's the moment you stop accepting the world at face value.
Yes. Before he can break out of the studio, he has to break out of the acceptance of the studio. The sources describe that aha moment like when he sees the backstage crew behind the elevator doors as a kind of rupture.
Yeah, the break.
It's the moment the simulation breaks. And it's chilling because, as the analysts note, awareness is irreversible. Once you ask the question, is this real? You can never really go back to sleep.
It's like pulling a loose thread on a sweater. The whole thing just unravels. But if Truman is the prisoner of this fake reality, we have to talk about the warden, the man in the beret up in the control room. Christophe.
The creator, the director. The source material describes Christophe as the absolute authority. He controls the weather, the day-night cycle, even the emotional arcs of Truman's life. But what's fascinating to the analysts is how he controls Truman. He doesn't use chains. He doesn't use a cell.
Right. Truman thinks he's free to walk around the town. He goes to work. He buys magazines.
Correct. And this brings us to our second pillar, Michel Foucault and the concept of the panopticon.
I've heard this term in relation to prison design. It's a specific architectural layout, isn't it?
That's the origin, yes. Jeremy Bentham designed it. Imagine a prison where the cells are arranged in a circle, and in the center there is a tall guard tower. The windows of the tower are darkened. If you're in the cell, you can't see into the tower. You never know when you are being watched, so you have to assume you're being watched always.
So you police yourself.
Exactly. You internalize the guard. You behave, not because someone is forcing you at that exact second, but because the threat of observation shapes your behavior.
Wow.
Foucault took this idea and applied it to society. The source points out that Truman is the ultimate victim of the panopticon. There are 5,000 cameras in Sea Haven. Every word, every facial expression, even his sleep, is broadcast.
It's psychological control. He smiles because he's supposed to smile. He stays on the path because he feels the eyes on him, even if he doesn't know where they are.
And here is where the sources get a little uncomfortable for us listeners. They argue this isn't just about a movie character. They say this mirrors our modern digital life perfectly.
I had a feeling we were going there. It feels almost too accurate.
It's the part of the deep dive that hits hardest. Think about it. Christoph curates Truman's reality. Who curates ours? Algorithms. The sources argue we are living in a soft panopticon.
We're talking social media, targeted ads.
All of it. We modify our behavior because we know we're being watched, or rather, tracked. We post things we think people will like. We avoid searching for certain things that might flag us. We perform a version of ourselves for an invisible audience.
It's funny, we usually think of surveillance as like the government listening to phone calls, but the source is suggesting it's much more subtle. It's the feeling of needing to project a perfect life, just like Sea Haven.
Precisely. And just like Truman, our environment is constantly nudging us. The source mentions how Christoph uses product placement and fear tactics, like the dangers of flying posters, to keep Truman in line.
Yeah.
The analysts compare that to how our news feeds are curated to keep us engaged or angry or buying things. We feel like we're making choices, but the menu has already been pre-selected for us.
That is genuinely unsettling. It suggests that our personality might just be a reaction to the algorithm.
It forces the question. Are you doing that because you want to, or because the director wants you to?
Okay, so let's track the progression here. We have the fake world, which is Descartes. We have the control system, Foucault. This leads Truman to a massive internal crisis. If the town is a set, and his wife is an actress, and his best friend is reading off a teleprompter, who is Truman?
That is the million-dollar question, and it brings us to our third philosopher, John Locke.
Now, Locke is usually associated with government and rights, life, liberty, property. How does he fit into a crisis of self?
Well, Locke also wrote extensively about identity. The source material highlights Locke's theory of consciousness and memory. See, up until the glitch, Truman's identity was defined by his environment. He's an insurance salesman, a polite neighbor, a husband.
But all those things are lies. They're props. His wife goes home to her real husband at night. His job accomplishes nothing.
Right. So if you strip away the fake job, the fake marriage, the fake town, is there anything left? Does Truman just cease to exist?
It's the nature versus nurture debate, but on an extreme level. If the nurture is completely fake, is the person real?
Locke would argue yes. He posited that personal identity isn't tied to the physical world or your social status. It's tied to your continuity of consciousness, your memories, your ability to reflect on yourself.
So even if the world around him is fake, Truman's experience of it is real to him.
Exactly. The source notes that this is Truman's primary rebellion. He realizes my surroundings are fabricated, but my feelings are mine. My memories are mine. When he starts to plan his escape, he stops acting like the character Christoph wrote, Truman the happy neighbor, and starts acting on his own internal desire.
He reclaims his humanity. He's basically saying, you can script the town, but you can't script my mind.
He refuses to be a prop. It's a Lockean revolution of the self. He realizes that I exist independently of the show. And that realization is crucial because it gives him the strength to do the unthinkable.
Which is to leave. And this leads us to the climax of the film and our final and perhaps heaviest philosophical pillar, Jean-Paul Sartre and existentialism.
This is where the rubber meets the road.
So set the scene for us. The source material focuses heavily on the boat scene. Truman overcomes his engineered fear of water, hijacks the Santa Maria, and just sails to the edge of the world.
It's a visually stunning moment. He literally hits the wall. The bow of the boat crashes into the painted sky. He touches the horizon, and it's just canvas. He finds a staircase, walks up, and finds an exit door.
And this is where Sartre comes in, because on the surface, this just looks like a standard hero escapes the villain moment.
It looks like that, but the philosophy underneath is much darker and maybe more profound.
Yeah.
Sartre didn't view freedom as a happy, light thing. He famously said we are condemned to be free.
Condemned. That's a strong word for something we all say we want. We usually think of freedom as a gift.
It is a gift, but it's a heavy one. Sartre meant that true freedom brings a crushing weight of responsibility. If you are free, you have no one to blame but yourself. You have no script. You have to create your own meaning in a chaotic, meaningless universe.
So let's look at Truman's choice at that door. Christoph comes over the loudspeaker, right? The voice of God.
Yes. And Christoph makes a very seductive argument. He tells Truman, listen, you can leave. But out there is lies, deceit, and danger. In here, in Sea Haven, you are safe. You are the star.
And he's not wrong, is he? That's the crazy part. Sea Haven is safe. No one gets mugged in Sea Haven. No one goes hungry.
That's the trade-off the analysts highlight. Option A, stay. It's comfortable, it's predictable, but it is what Sartre calls bad faith, lying to yourself to avoid the burden of freedom.
And option B, walk through the door into the pitch black.
Into the unknown. We don't see what's on the other side, neither does Truman. It's uncertain, it's terrifying, but it is authentic.
The source frames this as the ultimate act of free will.
It is. Truman chooses truth over safety. He bows to the camera, his final performance, and walks into the dark. The source notes that this is the moment Truman truly becomes a person. He accepts the terrifying burden of writing his own story without a script.
It's powerful because, let's be honest, how many of us would actually walk through that door? Safety is pretty appealing. If someone told me, hey, you can live in a perfect town where nothing bad ever happens, but you have to give like your privacy, I think a lot of people would take the deal.
That's the struggle. The source calls The Truman Show a philosophical study of man facing a programmed world. It forces us to ask, are we brave enough to leave the studio? Are we brave enough to accept the anxiety that comes with real freedom?
So let's recap this journey, because the source material really lays out a complete arc here. It's almost a step-by-step guide to waking up.
It really is. We start with Descartes, the awakening, the realization that our reality might be an illusion, or at least not the full picture.
Then we move to Foucault, understanding the systems of surveillance and control, the Christophs, that shape our behavior, whether that's a camera or an algorithm.
Then we have the lock-in moment, reclaiming your identity based on your own consciousness, refusing to be defined by the environment or the roles people assign to you.
And finally, the Sartrean leap, exercising true existential freedom by choosing the difficult truth over the comfortable lie.
It really changes how you watch the movie. It's not just about a guy escaping a TV set. It's about the process of becoming a conscious human being.
Precisely. The main takeaway from the source is that The Truman Show is a mirror. It reminds us that awareness is the first step toward freedom. You can't escape the prison if you don't realize you're in one.
And that brings us to the final thought the source material leaves us with. It's a question, and honestly, it's a bit of a haunting one to end on.
It is the most important question the source asks. How many of us are living a life that is truly free, and how many are part of a program written by others?
That hits home.
It does. We have to consider our current choices, our careers, our beliefs, the things we buy, the tweets we send. Are they truly our own? Or are they just the result of our own Christoph? Whether that's the algorithm, societal pressure, or just the path of least resistance.
Are we walking through the door, or are we just sailing in circles in the safe harbor?
That is the question the listener needs to answer for themselves.
Indeed. It's worth sitting with that discomfort for a bit.
A huge thank you to everyone for listening to this deep dive into The Truman Show. We hope it makes you look at the sky a little differently today.
Keep questioning.
We'll see you next time.